This new project is called Darwin200. I say new, I've actually been developing it and working on it and thinking on it and building a team behind it literally for the last decade. It has literally been a 10-year journey to get to this point. Well, here goes. This is what it's all about. In a nutshell, what we want to do, we want to empower and inspire and select the world's top young 200 conservationists and naturalists. These are leaders of tomorrow's world. These are the next generation's Charles Darwin's, the next generation's David Attenborough's, next generation's Jane Goodall's, etc., etc. We want to select one from 200 countries and states around the world. And maybe if you guys could kind of mute the old microphones. Sorry, getting a load of feedback. Yeah, so basically what we're going to do, we're going to select from 200 countries and states around the world the top young 200 conservationists. So the very brightest and best 18 to 25-year-olds that have changed the world in which they live. And I'll tell you more about them in a second. They're called Darwin leaders. We're going to then also make the world's most exciting classroom to inspire 200 million people through the voyage. And as you may know, I don't know whether you know or not, but in partnership with Fotbot in different ways, we ship out boxes to about 7 million students at 20,000 schools. So we know this stuff works. We know we can engage with kids right the way around the planet. We want to do interactive essays, lessons, projects, experiments that have been from the ship into classrooms right the way around in schools right the way around the world. And last but not least, 5 research projects, which I'll talk about all of those in a bit more detail in a second. So that's what the project's called. It's roughly, it's 200 years since the Beagle, HMS Beagle, the ship in which Darwin sailed around the world, was launched. It's not 200 years since the start of Darwin's voyage, but it's 200 years since the launch of the ship. We want to make the 200 leaders, the 200 next generation Charles Darwins, which is why it's called Darwin200. So this is the route that we're going to be going on. We're leaving on the 11th of May, 2021, so next May. It'll take us 767 days to do that route. And along that route, we've got 50 locations where Darwin made landfall. So 50 ports where Darwin reached land and researched wildlife. This is very important. The young 200 naturalists and conservationists, we call them Darwin leaders, they're going to be brought to the ship in groups of 4 to those 50 ports. So to be clear, those young leaders are not on the open ocean. They're not sailing the ship. They meet the ship in the ports where Darwin made landfall. They use the ship as a floating laboratory and media platform to undertake a very, very focused package of activities. This is not a holiday for them. This is not a vacation. They're there for one reason and one reason only, which is to be trained by some of the world's top naturalists. And we have 4 very exciting names. If you'll forgive me, I won't mention them yet because we're just finalizing a few things with them. But they're 4 people every single person will know, and they're very exciting people. Just trust me on that one. They'll be trained by some of the world's top conservationists, and during their placement, they have to pick a subject that Charles Darwin studied. This could be anything. This could be from Galapagos tortoises to marine iguanas to frigate birds. It doesn't really matter. There's literally thousands of plant and animal subjects that Darwin studied in those 50 locations. They have to pick one that they like, build projects around it, analyze what's happened to it over the last 200 years, and in virtually pretty much every single case, it's had a negative trajectory in the last 200 years, as in those animals or plants, their populations have deteriorated for different anthropogenic reasons. They have to look at the factors behind that decline and put forward real solutions that they think can help mitigate that change. Now, we're not under any illusions. We know they're not going to save the world just in this voyage, but what we'll succeed in doing is training them in how to think, showing them strategies that they can take back to their own countries to solve problems. And just as importantly as of all that, they have to reach 1 million people online during their placement, using the ship as a floating platform. 1 million people might sound like a lot, but it's nothing. I've done 20 YouTube videos with 1 million people. My Tristan da Cunha one's got, I think, nearly 5 million. Like, that is not hard to do. And these people are going to smash that target. they'll get 10 million, easy. They'll be putting out Facebook posts every day, live interviews, live feeds, live videos, blogs, vlogs, etc., every single night while they're on the ship, doing exciting projects with that wildlife. And obviously the fanfare and the publicity that goes with the ship as it sails under, for example, Sydney Harbour Bridge, or into Cape Town, into Table Bay, or Rio de Janeiro, all those different things. Yeah, we want to generate that publicity. It's all very well conservationists having ideas, but they have to communicate that to broad audiences. So through those 200 young people, those next generation leaders, we want them to reach 200 million people through that project. And again, I think we can smash that. These leaders, I think this is the lovely part of this project. We don't care whether these leaders can read or write. We don't care whether they've got PhDs. It's not about that. It's about going out there. And this is a lesson I learned on the territories, I have to say. It's about them going out there and changing the world we live in. And the best example I ever came across, coincidentally, was on the UK Overseas Territories. There are dozens of examples I could say, but the very best example I've ever seen or filmed or documented or written about was on Grand Cayman with an amazing man called Fred Burton, who, forgive me, I can't remember the exact dates and the exact figures, but basically around the year 2000, there were very few blue iguanas left. I can't remember the exact numbers, but for the sake of argument, let's say 30. The population was rapidly declining, and this unique species was about to become extinct by, I think it was like the year 2007. That was the trajectory that it was on. With no funding and no support, and no, I think it was probably even illegal technically, Fred on the Cayman Islands went out and rounded up and captured the last blue iguanas from the wild and started on his own with no support a breeding program. You can visit the Cayman Islands and literally see it today. I don't know exactly how many, but it's thousands he's produced through the breeding program, and they've cordoned off sections of Grand Cayman, really well protected it and conserved it and made them predator-free areas. And now there's thousands back in the wild. So what we're looking for in these young 18 to 25-year-olds is not professional academic qualifications. We don't care whether they can read and write. They might be people from Ethiopia or Papua New Guinea or wherever, doesn't matter. It's people that have gone out there, got the skills, and honestly, just the stubbornness and determination to save things and change the world in which they live. And that could be planting 1,000 trees around their village, stop coastal erosion, or holding back river erosion, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just the raw ability, and you see this in conservationists, just the raw ability to get out there and change things. And that's the quality that we're looking for. We want to bring these young 200 conservationists onto the ship and, as I say, transform them into the decision makers and leaders of the world of tomorrow, so that during their careers over the next 50, 60 years, they can help change the world in which we live. So that's what we're trying to do, make the next generation's conservation leaders and decision makers. 18 to 25-year-olds from 200 countries and states around the world coming to the ship in groups of 4 into the 50 ports. We deliberately want to give them initiative. We're not going to baby feed them and spoon feed them. We have academic coordinators, mentors on the ship to guide them, but we basically want them to go out there and develop their own projects and make their own initiative. It's amazing what young people can do with passion and determination, and if they really want to get stuff done. And that's the most important learning skills that we can give them, just the ability to get out there and do it. I mean, obviously it's going to be extremely well managed in terms of safety. And as I say, every single one of them has a mentor designated to make sure they're not trying to do stupid things like fall off a cliff or anything. But we deliberately let them get out there, develop their own projects, use initiative. And some probably will be disappointing, but some, we hope, will achieve incredible things. So that's what we're doing with them. Those are the Darwin leaders to help go change the world. The next thing, so the world's most exciting classroom. Well, had the pleasure last year of working with the Friends of the British Overseas Territories and the Don Hanson Charitable Foundation to send out these boxes to schools. We know this stuff works, okay? We know it does. What we're going to be doing is plugging into schools right the way across the globe and giving them totally free resources. We've already got philanthropists willing to fund a competition for the winning school, for the entire class and teacher of the school to have a free trip to the Galapagos. Got loads of things like that. Interactive experiments beamed from the hull of the ship into classrooms and schools around the globe. Lessons, activities, experiments, citizen science projects, etc., etc., etc. Every single day as we go around the world. That's what we want to be doing. We want to reach, again, 200 million people separately through this project too, which is the world's most exciting classroom. And again, I personally think we can smash that target. But anyway, let's see how it goes. That's what we want to be doing, and that's our goal. And yeah, part of this project, yeah, will involve all these different activities, including some really exciting experiments, which I think will be of real interest. In case it's of interest, I don't know whether anyone is interested or not, but I personally also want to create the very famous Stanley Miller experiment about creating amino acids and very, very basic replicating molecules, which has been exaggerated as life in a laboratory. It's not. It's the building blocks of life. But wouldn't it be fascinating to start that and run it for 2 entire years on the voyage? To start it as it leaves Plymouth, and then when it gets back to Falmouth in 2 years, see what's kicked off through a larger Stanley Miller experiment. Anyway, that's what lots of different things like that I want to try and do. And then, yeah, these are some of the last but not least, we have 5 elements, 5 exciting citizen science projects that we're bringing on PhD students and different NGO partners onto the ship at different stages to undertake. And very, very briefly, these are a global coral reef study. Corals are not just impacted by coral bleaching, which is the famous one, but there's literally 20 other factors that impact them. A whole range of them. So it'd be really interesting to understand that and look at the change since Darwin's voyage. A habitat survey, looking at the impacts on global habitats, on global, the impacts, the extent to which species diversity declines once terrestrial habitats are degraded. And basically it's an exponential curve downwards, and it'd be really interesting to explore that. And there are lots of cool technologies you can use. For example, in the eastern tropical rainforests where Darwin went to, Brazil, the coastal rainforests, you can drop these giant, massive nets onto the canopy. They're like 100 meters by 100 meters. Drop them onto the trees, which allows you to then actually explore the canopy. You can climb onto the nets and in 2 dimensions explore the canopy and do biological surveys. And not being arrogant, but I've named and discovered and named like 35 new species of plants. For little things like invertebrates, like beetles, particularly in South America, you are guaranteed to find loads. Okay, they won't be big and spectacular. They'll be really small, only a few millimeters in size. But yeah, we will definitely find lots. So we want to like run projects with schools. They can choose the names or be involved in the description process and show people how you name new species, which is a really interesting process that not many people in the public fully get. So that'd be quite interesting. The third one is Darwin trawled for plankton. We're going to trawl both for micro and macro plastics every day during the voyage and do concentration maps showing where the concentrations are. There's some quite interesting results globally. To differing extents, the gyres in the Pacific both impact plastic and surprisingly cannot impact plastic as well. So it'd be really interesting to look at that in real time and get people analysing this and doing lots of citizen science. Penultimate one being a cetacean study, a whale and dolphin survey. Believe it or not, we actually don't know a lot about many of the deep diving whales and dolphins. There are, of course, there's many famous species, but there's dozens and dozens of cetaceans that we don't know that much about, that are very rarely seen. For example, beaked whales and these interesting hourglass dolphins, and all sorts of interesting ones like that. We want to, we're partnered with an NGO that really wants to do a survey across particularly the vast stretches across the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and parts of the Atlantic as well. Because there's actually surprisingly little data about what's out there in terms of cetaceans. And it's not just seeing them, but using hydrophones over the side in the water. You can pick these things up from kilometers and kilometers and kilometers away. So it'd actually be a really interesting project. And then last but not least, a real world pollution solutions PhD projects. So getting PhD students that are specializing in pollution mitigating strategies to actually test their technology in real conditions. Because a lot of the technology, is great, it sounds wonderful on paper, but how will it actually work in the real environment? For example, there's a really interesting innovation called robots, ROW bots. And these are basically machines that have chemical fuel cells that you can actually drop into petrochemical spillages. So for example, oil spills, you can drop these robots and they basically eat the waste oil. It'd be really, really interesting to test things like that. All these arrays that collect plastic from the water, they filter it out and store it in their bags, and then it can be collected for recyclable products. So it'd actually be really interesting to see actually how they really work in real working conditions, and try and advance those if we can. So that's what we're trying to do in the global project. It's a hell of a big project. We have to raise about 4 million. We've got about 1 million committed so far. So we've still got a ways to go to make it happen. So what we're doing this year to try and make it more likely to happen, we've raised 160 grand, and we've chartered a stunning ship called the Pelican of London, and we're taking it around the UK through all of August and most of September. So this is what we're up to. And this is happening, this is real. The global voyage, we still have to raise money, and I don't know if that's going to happen. We hope we will, of course, and we're going to do everything we can. But this is real. This is what we are now doing. On the 1st of August, we're leaving Sharpness Dockyard. Sharpness is not far from Bristol, down here. And we're sailing our stunning ship, which I'll show you some load of photos in a second of. We're sailing it to Folkestone, because we have a sponsor there, and we want to circumnavigate the entire UK. So we're actually backtracking around the south coast of England, also to give the team on the board the ship the experience about how to handle it and to get our systems ready and get it all up and running. From Folkestone, we then go clockwise around the entire British archipelago. And forgive me, I don't in any way mean to patronize anyone, but I have to say, before planning this voyage, I did not realize how many incredible islands there are around the archipelago. And if people are interested, at the end, we can talk about a few of them. Some of them are amazing. I mean, absolutely incredible places. Philip mentioned the BBC4 project I did for Britain called Britain's Treasure Islands, concerning the UK overseas territories. I'm trying really hard to pull off another one called Our Islands, the most remote British islands of the British archipelago. And, sorry, the most remote British Isles, it's called. Our Islands, the most remote British Isles. And it would be a follow-up series looking at the islands just in the UK and the British archipelago. Anyway, the point is that we're going from, we're going to Folkestone to Southampton, then across to Plymouth, then to Falmouth, then to the Scilly Islands, then up to Cardiff, and then up round to Liverpool, then to Belfast, then to Glasgow, then up to St Kilda and through all the Hebrides, across the Orkneys and Shetlands, all the way down to Edinburgh, and then to Bass Rock, which is the most incredible island I've ever seen, I think. And then all the way back down into London, arriving in London on the 21st of September, straight under Tower Bridge, bringing it under London, then bringing the ship for a week, well, 6 days, in the centre of London, and bringing all of our philanthropists and sponsors and partners on the ship, hopefully getting them lots of wine and hopefully getting the old checkbook out. So that's what we're trying to do. It's amazing how much a bit of wine can help on these things. So, so no, I mean, seriously, we'll bring them on the ship, show them the vision, show them the scope, show them what we're wanting to achieve, and most importantly of all, have a proven concept. So not an idea, not a dream, but we're actually doing the global voyage in miniature here. We're bringing on 10 young scientists for the voyage. We've got, just today, we've got a wonderful partnership in place with the University of Plymouth, with 2 of the UK's top oceanographers that are leading the young scientists program on the UK voyage. And they're doing lots of little projects like what we're talked about in the global voyage in miniature, from plastic surveys to ocean pH to surface temperatures to hydrophones with whales and dolphins around the UK, of which, by the way, there's many, many, many species. It's surprising how many whales and dolphins and porpoises occur around the British Isles, and how many species as well, not just sheer numbers. Yeah, we're coming into London then with a proven concept. So not an idea, but a proven concept. That's the goal. And then, yeah, we'll see what happens then for the global voyage. So, oh, sorry, I should have really done it on this slide, actually. Sorry. There's a little map showing where we're going. If anyone is in these ports, please come by. It would be lovely to see you all, and lovely to be part of it. We're actually going to be broadcasting live throughout this. And okay, I know it's not completely overseas territories, but in a way, sort of connected. We could do live talks from St Kilda, which is this incredible, well, I'm sure you know of St Kilda, this extraordinary island with fascinating stone ruins and just this incredible abandoned history. One of the most amazing islands in the world. Yeah, to Bass Rock, to the Hebrides, and many, many, many others. So that's what we're up to going around the UK. It'd be lovely to do live link-ins. We're actually working with a group called Exploring from By the Seats of Your Pants, which is an American group that are giving us BGAN, which is satellite upload. So we can actually do live feeds, even from remote areas, well beyond, you know, any Wi-Fi or any communications in that respect. So we could totally time it in with a load of those and do some lovely stuff from them if it's of interest. And yeah, like I say, the goal is then to bring it into London and push this as hard as we possibly can. And we've got some very serious conversations going with major sponsors. So I can't promise that the global voyage will happen, but we've got some very serious relationships there. So if anyone is in London and wants to have a load of wine on a beautiful pirate ship, please come down. We'll share all the details. It's basically from the September the 21st-ish onwards. It might be September 22nd, it kind of depends, but that's what we're trying to do. So if you're around then, please do come. I should actually mention, oh sorry, this is our ship. This is the Pelican of London. It's a beautiful ship. She was built in 1946. She's steel hulled, she's 45 meters long. She's actually a training ship, so it's a perfect partnership. Training ship, and is totally equipped and used to bringing on young people, particularly from underprivileged backgrounds. And yeah, that's literally what she's set up for, and what she's set up to do. So that's what you can come onto in London. That's the ship there. That's the obviously the sails. We're having all the sails branded with our different existing sponsors, and we've got a big Darwin200 sail. By the way, the sails have many hilarious names, one of which is called a spanker, which I particularly enjoyed. And there's the poop deck and lots of other funny names. And other ones like the top sail, which is actually not at the top. It's the third down. So there's lots of very funny names with all the sails, which make no sense at all to most people. But anyway, they're very interesting and very fun. And all of the crew really look the part. They all look like pirates, and they're lovely people, lovely people, but they really look like the real deal. So they're wonderful. And yeah, on the UK voyage, this is St Kilda and a few of the islands. This is where we'll be going through all the Hebrides. If anyone wants to come, we've actually had one cancellation literally this morning. So if anyone wants to come for the first half of the voyage, we've had someone cancel. So if anyone wants to come, you can basically just email info@darwin200.com. All we ask for people to chuck in a tiny bit of money just to cover their food and their equipment, basically. But we've got 160 grand of costs fully sponsored. So it's an incredible opportunity. And if anyone wants to come, well, I'm not trying to promote it like that, but just so you know, it is, hang on, the dates are, bear with me, the dates are, oh, sorry, actually, I knew them off by heart, what am I doing? They're from the July the 30th, you'd have to be at the ship, because you have 36 hours training, to August the 20th. We're getting to Liverpool. So it's July the 30th to August the 20th. If anyone wants to come, please let us know. We've got literally one place left, only because someone cancelled today. So that's a bit about the voyage, and that's what we're trying to achieve. Oh, just talking a few islands. This one just is incredible. This is Fingal's Cave in the Hebrides. The entire thing is made out of basaltic obelisks, like the Giant's Causeway. And there's a very famous cave there, which is famous for its wind music. Many pieces were inspired there in the 19th century. It's very famous for Victorians. So we've got some really interesting locations along the trip as well. That's the cave there with the wind music. A very magical place. All Scotland's highlands and Scottish Highlands with all the black houses and so forth. They're really, really interesting. And that's Bass Rock. For example, if you guys wanted to, we could do a live Fotbot film or video or whatever from the top of that rock with that literally it's 500,000 gannets. It's one of Europe's largest seabird colonies, which would be really fun and interesting. And meet, of course, some of the locals, such as the Highland cattle. So, yeah, if anyone wants to come, please let us know. It's sailing. It's in 4-hour, 8-hour shifts, so it's serious. It's 4 hours on, 8 hours off, basically non-stop. So it's not a cruise. But if anyone does want to come and have a hell of an adventure, please let us know as quickly as you can, because yeah, we have to finalize that last place like immediately, basically. So let us know. So that's a little bit of an overview of Darwin200, and I know that was a bit of a lightning overview. So if there's any questions, I'd be delighted to answer any. And that's inside the ship there, and that's the bunks. So it's not luxurious. It's a working ship. It's a real ship. It's not a cruise. It's a working ship, but that's what it looks like. So if you want to join and have an adventure of a lifetime, oh, and we've got lots of promo videos on YouTube. Just type in Darwin200 on YouTube and you'll see a load. So thank you very, very much for listening. And if I can answer any questions, would be absolutely delighted to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stu. As Stewart knows, that's the second time I've actually sat through this. Still as fascinating as the first. You do so, Stewart, you do so much. And we always joke in Fotbot about whether you get any sleep, and we don't think you do, but
I honestly don't.
So we commend you for all your efforts. So thank you. Lucia, I think you've been reading up on so our events coordinator. And
yeah.
Is there any do you want to fire some questions that we've had from the chat during the talk?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Stuart. Thanks so much for that readout. We've had a few questions in the meeting chat function.
Sure.
So the first one, just to let you know, we've had, I hope I said individual's name correctly, Jose Palazzo from the Brazilian Humpback Whale Project. He's given me your contact details, so I'll pass them on to you after. He said he'd be very happy to offer their support in Brazil for anything that might be useful for the project. That
would be terrific. A massive, massive thank you. That would be awesome.
Excellent. So I'll sort that out after.
Sure.
So one of the first questions we've had is from HP Jill. And they said, Darwin was one of the first to note the spread of new invasive species, one of the biggest threats to island biodiversity.
Yep.
Can I suggest that biosecurity is made a background thread for this excellent initiative, which will include a number of islands?
Yeah, without question. I mean, to any conservationist, island biodiversity is disproportionately important. And most of my entire project with the UK Overseas Territories centered on that specific theme, and to an even greater extent, that will be the case here. I mean, obviously, there's probably no naturalist more connected to endemism of islands than Charles Darwin. Not just the Galapagos, which is obviously the most famous one, but believe it or not, he actually spent twice as much time in the Falklands as he did in the Galapagos. And he actually noticed not just endemism, but he had very rudimentary ideas on speciation between different populations of animals on the Falklands before he even got to the Galapagos. So yeah, that's a very good point, and I probably should have made it clearer, but yeah, 100% that is a massively important theme throughout all of this, and that is absolutely central to the work that we're going to be doing on all of the islands that we visit as part of Darwin200. And I use island in a modern biogeographic context. Islands are not just lumps of rock in water. Island biogeography in exactly the same way can extend to isolation on mountains as well. So in a very modern biogeographic sense, conserving that island, ecological island biodiversity extends beyond just islands, but on continental landmasses, on continents as well. And that's very much apparent in South America in many ways as well. So yeah, 100%. That's a good point. Yeah.
That's perfect. Another question from JJ. Will you be visiting the Isle of Man?
Well, unfortunately, probably not on this voyage, unfortunately. We're going to be near it. I mean, we could, if anyone there wants us to, we could. We're being really near it. It's not on the itinerary at the moment, not for any reason. It's just that we can't do everywhere. But if I can get this series off the ground, the Our Islands series, which I hope we can, then yeah, definitely we'll be visiting for that. But for the Darwin200 voyage at the moment, not. But we who knows? I mean, who knows what can happen? We try. Yeah.
Super. I've actually got 2 questions for myself. I hope you don't mind. The first one being that I might have missed the detail, but when you said that you'll have lots of young leaders and conservationists joining this trip, where exactly will you sort of hold the competition where those young scientists and conservationists can sign up?
Sure. So that's for the global voyage, correct? Or are you referring to the UK one?
The global one, yeah. Yeah,
okay, fine. So the simple truth is we've got 3 different ways to find them. It depends a little bit upon how this project is funded. The ideal case is we work with many NGO partners all around the world and do a massive mail out, drive some huge publicity. Of the 4, again, I forgive me for not mentioning them, but just trust me, you'll know who they are. The 4 magic cards that we've got have got between them literally hundreds of millions of followers on social media. We'll use those guys to get it out, NGO partners, IUCN, and commercial advertising if necessary. Now, I would personally prefer to do a grassroots effort, open applications for basically November, January, February in 200 countries, states around the world, blitz it and go nuts. Hopefully get a wide range of applicants from each of those countries and then select the very best one from each of those. As I say, it does slightly depend on partnerships and how, if we're lucky to get this global voyage fully funded. And one of the avenues also is a sponsor being involved in that process as well. So the honest truth is depending upon if we get this funded and how it's funded, that will slightly determine how those are selected. But we want it to be absolutely all-inclusive, absolutely fair for everyone, and yeah, give 18 to 25-year-olds around the planet to be part of it. Yeah, so that's where we stand on that one.
Super, thank you. The second one is that I think I understood that you visited all of the British overseas territories, which is definitely a feat in itself. So of the ones that you will be visiting as part of the global voyage, which of the overseas territories are you most looking forward to revisiting?
Oh, well, I have to say, I mean, sure. I love all of the, like, I'm not just saying this, I really do. I love all of the UK overseas territories. However, I don't know why, but the Atlantic ones for me are just I shouldn't say the most interesting, but there's something very, very romantic about them. Very romantic and very special. But I'm referring, again, for heaven's sake, I don't mean that others are less good or less interesting or anything like that. So if anyone's listening from any of the, please don't think I'm being, harsh or offensive or anything like that. But I just simply mean that I fell in love. Okay, I'll put it that way. I fell in love with the Atlantic territories in a very big way. And by total coincidence, Darwin went to 3 of them, which is St. Helena, Ascension Island, and the Falkland Islands. And I have no idea why, but I had just the most extraordinary luck visiting those 3. Just blind luck. Like, we just happened to rock up at Ascension Island at exactly the peak of the turtles coming ashore, and by complete and utter coincidence, also coinciding with the land crab migration, which only happens a couple of times a year. And things like that happen again and again and again. And the Falkland Islands, without even intending to, we were there for the referendum, which was like well, the only one it's ever had, and it just so happened to be the day after we got back from Antarctica. And just everything went really well in those. It went well on all the territories, but those ones are just magical, and they're very romantic places. St. Helena, obviously, as I'm sure as you know, very, very magical place. When I went, you couldn't fly in. Now, of course, you can fly in, but still, it's still an amazing, magical island. And I was only on these ones for a very short time, and I got to taste them. And there's so much on those three in particular. The Falklands, I mean, there's nearly 800 islands in the Falkland archipelago. I think I went to like 4 or maybe 5, you know. And, same with St. Helena. I mean, on St. Helena, probably more so than all of the others, it is just so unbelievably concentrated history. Okay, I love natural history. I'm a conservationist and a naturalist, and I've spent the last 20 years writing books and films and climbing mountains. But in another life, I would love history at least as much, or if not more. And I have to say, to my shame, of course, we filmed Napoleon's grave, and we filmed Longwood, where Napoleon spent the last 6 years of his life. But since going to St. Helena, I've become obsessed with Napoleon's history, and I wish I could do it again, because it's just so interesting, and there's just so many layers to it. And those 3 territories, Ascension, St. Helena, and Tristan da Cunha, Tristan da Cunha as well, Ascension, St. Helena, and Falkland Islands, are just off the chart diverse in terms of history and wildlife, and they're filled with amazing people and incredible stories. So, okay, I know it's a bit of a lame answer, but you asked me which ones I'm looking forward to. Well, all 3 of them that we're visiting, basically, and just can't wait. And even if the global voyage of Darwin200 doesn't happen, for heaven's sake, let's organise a FOTBOT trip to those 3. Like, you will not regret it. You can fly to all 3 of them now, actually. In fact, you could, I know you can't go to St. Helena you could do the air bridge to the Ascension, then down to the Falklands, then back, but that wouldn't connect with St. Helena. Anyway, you could do a lovely trip to Ascension, Falklands, and back again, and then separately to St. Helena and back again. And I would very happily, I mean, I'd cover my own costs, but I'd volunteer as a guide, because they're just magical, and I know them. You know, I've been to them. I don't know them that well, but yeah, they're magical places. And the Falklands in particular, they have islands you just won't believe. Like, the most incredible one I think I've ever been to, like Bass Island, which I showed you earlier, but it's called Steeple Jason. It has the world's largest populations of albatross by far on it. I forget how many hundreds of thousands of penguins. I mean, it's as good as South Georgia and Antarctica, but without, you know, the week-long, well, 5-day-long voyages across rough seas. It's just amazing. So those 3 territories, and Ascension as well. Sorry, I could go on for this for the next 2 hours. But Ascension, by the way, if anyone's wanting to do a PhD, I can't believe no one's done this to the extent that it should have been done. As you may know, the middle of Ascension has a volcano that has an artificial rainforest on it, planted basically by Joseph Hooker and Charles Darwin in the late 19th century. And people have studied it, so I don't mean to underplay it in that sense, but there's so many incredible research projects you could do there, looking at animals and plants adapting to that artificial biome. And it's the world's only totally man-made, totally artificial rainforest. So yeah, there's so much on all of those islands you could look at and study. So yeah, anyway, sorry, I've probably gone on a bit too long for that one. Any other questions at all?
All very interesting, Stu. And in fact, you mentioned about your fascination with Napoleon. I do highly recommend this book, The Road to St. Helena. It's about 100 days between his defeat at Waterloo and then being exiled to St. Helena. It's only about that period. So
wow, that would be interesting.
It's I'm with you on that, Stu. I've become fascinated with Napoleon at the moment.
It's just such a dramatic story. If anyone doesn't, again, I don't mean this badly, because a few years ago, I didn't know much I knew of Napoleon, but if you haven't read about him, just pick up a book. There's been like 800, and his story is so interesting, and it's entwined with St. Helena. Interestingly, a part of St Helena is technically a part of France. So there's like a mini territory in a territory on St Helena. Yeah, the grave. And
Not Longhouse. Is it Longwood?
Yep, Longwood. Yeah,
Part of France.
yeah.
Not a,
But there's actually three. So he went to a place called the Briars to start off with,
yeah.
while they were doing up Longwood, and then they went to Longwood, and then his grave. And those three, if my memory serves me correct, are technically, I'm not quite sure of the right term. They're not territories of France, but they're sovereign land of France, something like that. Or owned by France, something like that, basically. But technically, they're like little enclaves or something like that, which is really interesting in its own right. Yeah. Anyway, so those three, just magical. And that book, I will read that book because
please, I'll send you a link. And speaking of, I must advertise your own book, Stu, which you've obviously done in partnership with Fotbot, which is Britain's Distant Lands.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
We do still have, just a shout out to everyone who's kindly joined us this evening. We are still selling copies of Britain's Distant Lands. So if tonight has hearing from Stuart's fantastic inspirational talk this evening, you know, if people do want to get more involved in travelling, or whether it's conservation or history, you know, you can start by just at a discounted rate, but not support Fotbot by buying one of Stuart's books.
Cool. It'd be a pleasure.
Yeah. Do you want to read? I think we've had a few more comments, so we've got about 15 minutes. We'll finishing at 9 o'clock. If that's okay with you, Stu?
Of course. Yeah, of course, absolutely.
So, do you want to read out any more comments we've had? Just so Stu's obviously, because I think some people, for example, I think Simona's offered some support.
Yeah, I'll read that out. Stuart, so I'm going to pass on Simona's contact details as well. So they've also said that they work within the satellites technology for a couple of years. And if contacts or support are needed for streaming live by satellites, etc., they will be happy to help with providing contacts.
Thanks, that'd be awesome. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So a question from Natalie: how old do you have to be to take up the last vacant place? I assume that's on the UK voyage.
Yeah. So basically, we're asking people to be. I mean, there isn't a strict age limit. We actually have someone who's very old, 16, about to turn 17, like during the voyage. We're thinking 18 above, and we've got about 20 people that are 18 above, but there's one or two that are 17, and even one that's like the last week of 16. So with parental consent, 16 or 17, or anyone from 18 above. Yeah, if you want to come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so one of the last comments I'll read out, it's not it's more of a comment then question. It says Fotbot should arrange a meetup with a ship in St Helena. I assume that's when I suppose your ship comes into it.
Absolutely.
That's a good consideration then.
Yeah, good idea to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that would be a really
well, thank you everyone for your comments. If anyone else has any other questions, do drop them in the chat. If not, Stuart, I hope it's okay that I'll leave your contact details in the email after at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, of course.
And just to say, this webinar has been recorded, as with all our webinars. Again, if it's okay with you, Stu, I think we do put them online.
Of course, absolutely. Go for it.
Obviously, gives that opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there any more questions? And by all means, at this point, we are happy if you want to unmute yourself. You can ask a question directly, or if you just want to write a question. Does anyone else want to ask Stuart anything?
Or about the overseas territories as a whole, not just about Darwin200. If you know, if I can answer anything.
I will pick. Actually, I know. So Nick Sundin's on the call this evening, and he's doing an article on St Helena. So, is there anything you want to ask Stuart, Nick?
No, but I'll just say the article is on the Napoleonic Bicentenary Committee, which is meant to commemorate the bicentenary of Napoleon's death on St Helena.
Wow.
Which was in 1821, so that's for next year, because the French have their own committee commemorating this, but the British have set up their own sort of tourism-focused initiative to boost tourism to St Helena. So that's what the committee's looking at. That's what the article will be reporting on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's really wonderful. That'd be really, really, really interesting. It's going to be an interesting year next year, definitely at St. Helena. So yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be more interesting in the way we all want it to be, Stu, next year.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah, better than this year, and that's yeah, of course, yeah. That's true. Yes, yeah. Yeah.
But but thankfully, as we were saying when we started the call tonight, technology has allowed us all to be connected.
That's true.
I just want to mention, because I don't know if Stuart, you're aware of this, but we are football. We do a different charity of choice each year, and this year and now next year we are raising money, Stu, for the Falkland Islands Museum.
Oh, that's great. Oh, they're lovely.
So we're doing appeal to support permanent home for larger artifacts owned by the Falkland Islands Museum and National Trust.
Oh, that's great.
Thanks to you participating tonight, Stu, we've actually raised £85 from this call alone. So thank you.
Really? Wow. Okay. That's great.
It's an optional donation, as we do events. People can choose to donate if they wish. So
good for you guys. Well done for donating, everyone.
So yeah, no, it's great. So large pieces, including a Sea King search and rescue helicopter flown by the Duke of Cambridge, is at that museum.
Wow.
And we're essentially trying to increase their capacity to have such objects. So I just thought I must mention that, and I've posted the link in the chat. So please, we are doing a sponsored half marathon walk in September, which we'd obviously very much welcome everyone to support. Even if you can just donate £5 or £10, please do help out. It is a big help. So.
That's a really lovely thing, and it's a love. I actually did a talk there when I was down on the Falklands. It's a lovely, 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 lovely museum run by really terrific people. So there's a very worthy cause, and they have some very interesting artifacts there, including some. Well, literally, as far as I'm aware, pretty much the last ones. Skulls of the Wara, an extinct canine. It's not a dog or a wolf. It's often called the Falklands wolf, but it's not. But it looks like a wolf basically, but it's not a wolf. Very interesting because there was nothing on the adjacent part of South America, and for many decades, zoologists couldn't really quite understand how it got there. And this is another species that Charles Darwin studied. And when he went there, he noticed how if you held some meat out in front, the waras, like most animal species, island species that aren't adapted to predators, or in this case was the top predator, so it didn't have any other predators to compete with, they had no fear. And this is a common trait you find on islands. So Darwin noted how the gauchos who were on the islands at the time would just hold meat out, and as the wara would come and get the meat, they could stab it from the side and kill it, just for fun. They didn't eat them, they just killed them for fun. And even when Darwin was there, he predicted the species would be extinct within a few years, and it was, very sadly.
Wow.
And yeah, the Falklands has, I think there's 1 or 2 skulls of it and bones of it in the London Natural History Museum, but I filmed it. I know there's several at the Falklands Museum as well. So preserving them is really important, because I mean, you can count as many that there are in the world on your hands, like in terms of originals. So I really hope that they can help conserve that as well, because that's really special.
It does, fantastic.
Yeah.
We've had another 2 questions. Well, Stu, Simone just asks, is there a deadline for signing up for the vacant place? Well, I believe the deadline is just as soon as possible.
Yeah, basically.
Basically tomorrow, right?
Yeah, like as soon as, we're buying in all the food right now, which is measured in the tons. And depending on whether people are, vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, or whatever, we have to.
So just very selfishly, I can say straight away, Stu, if Simona does go sign up and goes, Simona, you will be appointed the football representative on board. So I know Simona very well over several years. So
good.
Should she go ahead, and we would, just so you know, Stu, we would definitely have Simona as our football liaison.
Good. Well, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. That'd be really, really good.
Fantastic. And then Lee Hardy asks, might the football half marathon link up with your ship in London? I'm not sure, when is the boat in London, Stu, at the end?
So it's going to be in approximately, let's say September the 22nd, for approximately 6 days.
Okay, well then yes. I mean the sponsored half marathon's on the 19th, so it's only 3 days after, so we can.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
I mean, yeah, we'll
You guys.
sort
Yeah.
something out.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. Okay, well, perfect, that's good. I think the plan is we're going to try and get underneath the Tower Bridge on the morning of the 22nd. We'll get to Tilbury on the 21st, then under the Tower Bridge on the 22nd. So yeah, great. Look, if that works out, that'd be really nice. But even if it doesn't work out, definitely. Or you could do a Fotbots live lecture from the ship. You could come on the ship and beam it. I mean, how cool is that, doing it from a pirate ship? You could, yeah, you could, why not beam it from the ship and to be like, oh, well, this week we're on a crazy pirate ship sailing around the world.
The bounty number 2, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. Cool.
Lucia, is there any other questions that you've had for
No, that's everything we've got in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in that case, I think we'll conclude. So just once again, thank you so much for your time this evening, Stu.
Not at all. Pleasure.
Really fantastic what you're doing, and obviously anything I can do, Fotbot can do. You know, we do want to do. We are fully behind your project.
Well,
and,
thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks. And it just keep your fingers crossed. If we can pull this off, there's so much we can do from those 3 territories. So
yeah, no, and Stu, I would. We should definitely look at. You know, perhaps I take a team out to St Helena whilst the boats. You know, we'll coincide.
yeah, definitely, that would be great.
There's now
Yeah.
by St Helena, although it would take away some of the mythicalness of it. You know, it would make you to get.
Yeah.
That.
No, you should. But even if it doesn't, you should do a Fotbot trip to all 3 of them. Because they are such cool places.
No, that's Stu, we unfortunately, just so you're aware, we had to cancel Fotbot's trip this year to Anguilla.
Right.
That was
sure.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, sure.
We are still doing a limited trip to we go to Gibraltar in September for National Day, which is.
Oh, that's good. That's nice.
So we're still doing that. We're still going to Gibraltar.
Yeah.
And next year we're either going to try again at Anguilla, or we're going to see about getting to St Helena for the 200th anniversary of Napoleon.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, that really sucks that you had to cancel it this year, but I mean, obviously under the circumstances.
Well, we've all had to, you know, we've all had to make changes to our lives, I think.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, it makes sense.
The main thing is to keep everyone in good health, Stu, and you know.
That's right. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, thank you again, Stu, and thank you to all our listeners. And if you, suffice it to say, if you're not a member of Fotbot yet, please do join. It's only £20 for the year. Gus Eldridge is on the line. He's our merchandise officer. So
evening.
There he is. That's the man. That's the man. And we've just actually had 50 calendars delivered for. We've got a Fotbot 2021 calendar, which we are selling at a very good, reasonable price. I don't know if you want to say anything else on it, Gus.
Yes, it has images from a lot of the overseas territories. $14.99. Available now, so by all means go on the online shop and make your order.
So we've branched out into that, and we are getting some Fotbot t-shirts done for the sponsored walk, amongst other things. So we have a lot of merchandise. We've even got Fotbot mugs, so you can have a cup of tea.
Wow.
So, yeah, we certainly branched out this year into that. Well, because we've had the time to do all these designs, which has helped. So. Okay, well, on that, again, thank you all. Thank you, Stuart. And
thank you.
Take care and keep in touch. And thank you, everyone. And I wish everyone a very good evening. Take care.
Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. It's lovely to speak to you all.
Bye-bye.